Before we get into this video, I'm pleased to announce that I got a sponsor, and it's a biggie because today's video is sponsored by Vault Comics. Yes, really. The Dying Inside graphic novel is coming to Vault Comics this year, and it's written by Fall Out Boy's Pete Wentz. It's his debut novel, and it was also written by Hannah Klein and Lisa Stell as well. Dying Inside is about a clinically depressed teenage girl, Ash, who tries to exit the stage forever, if you catch my drift, but she's accidentally cursed by a charmed tool, wink wink, that turns her big finale into the gift of immortality. Dying Inside is perfect for fans of Scott Pilgrim and Wednesday, obviously Umbrella Academy 2. It's a supernatural emo fantasy thriller. As you can see, I got an advanced copy of the novel, and let me tell you, if you are a fan of Pete Wentz, then you have to get this. It contains original poetry and lyrics, and never before heard music from Daisy Grenade. And if for some reason you're not a Pete Wentz fan, then I still recommend this graphic novel. It's kind of like Umbrella Academy, like you don't need to be a fan of Gerard to appreciate the series. It's a gripping story with themes of mental health, friendship, and self-discovery. Plus, you can get 10% off your order with code Halloweeny. That is without the X's, and they are a US-based company. Thank you so much to Vault Comics for supporting the channel, and also shout out Pete, like this is so good. And we're back to camera off. Maybe one day I'll do camera on videos, but to be honest, I do so many takes that it looks weird when I'm on camera. And also I don't really understand how people are reading their scripts, but also looking at the camera. I can't do it, call me stupid. Anyway, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be exploring the battle between My Chemical Romance and Hannah Montana that happened in 2006. Yes, really, that was a thing. Think of Barbieheimer, but just for emos. But before we get into today's video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos weekly, and as always, MCR5 2024, it is so happening, it is so real, you just gotta sparkle like Bowie in the morning sun. Every time I film a video, I'm like, maybe you should stop saying that, because I have a decent amount of videos scheduled, and at some point, like, the album's gonna come out, and I'm still gonna be here telling people to believe in it, and, anyway, that's it, let's go, let's get into it.
Hey, I'm Miley Cyrus from Hannah Montana, and you're watching Disney Channel.
Okay, let's set the stage. It's 2006, and My Chemical Romance are one of the biggest bands in the scene, and maybe even in the world, and emo in many ways is at its peak popularity. I myself had just discovered emo, and everyone was eagerly waiting for My Chemical Romance to release the follow-up to 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. The anticipation was intense, and then in July the announcement finally came. A new album would drop in October that year. Initially the title of the album was kept a secret, however alternative press provided a glimpse into what was to come. Mikey Way shared their ambitions and stated, "We want this to be the album that My Chemical Romance is remembered for. We all have records that shaped our childhood and teen years. When you hear a song, it shoots you back to a moment in time. We want this album to do that for people. We want the entire world to be moved." It's wild to look back on Mikey saying that because, wow, you really did change the world with that album. And then in August, MCR dropped a pre-recorded press conference that shook the scene to its core. The conference revealed the album's title, The Black Parade, along with several song titles and an unexpected yet exciting piece of information. Liza Minnelli would be featured on the album. What do you mean Liza Minnelli is going to be featuring on a My Chemical Romance album? That is so bizarre, but so cool, because also, who else is doing that? Who else is that ambitious?
The Black Parade is an epic, theatrical, orchestral,
big
record that, you know, is also a concept album that has a very set story in it, but also as you listen to this record, the layers of that story peel away. And what you're left with at the end is a story about mortality and our own mortality, I feel. But I think, you know, you guys have a lot you could say about the sound.
I think, yeah, I think because of, you know, we really wanted to tell this story, and to be able to do that, we had to experiment a lot, you know, and we have a lot of new instruments on the record. One of them being piano, which kind of unlocked a whole new form of songwriting for us, and was really instrumental in really creating the sound and to reach the scope of this record that it needed.
Meanwhile, emo wasn't the only cultural phenomenon captivating the world. Hannah Montana, played by Miley Cyrus, of course, was taking the universe by storm as a Disney Channel sensation. Premiering in 2006, the show followed the adventures of Hannah Montana, a teenage pop star leading a double life. The character struggled to balance her secret identity with the everyday challenges of being a normal teenage girl. It's funny, inspiring, and something we all low-key dreamed about having in our lives. Like, who doesn't want to be a secret pop star?
She's got family, she's got friends, and oh yeah, she's got a huge secret. What the world doesn't know is Miley Stewart is Hannah Montana. Hannah Montana premieres in March on Disney Channel.
The show's debut episode set a new record for Disney, attracting 5.4 million viewers, the highest rated premiere for the channel at the time. And of course, as the series continued, its popularity only skyrocketed, peaking with an episode featuring the Jonas Brothers, which drew an incredible 10.7 million viewers. Despite being fully emo at the time, I found myself watching Hannah Montana, and I would tell people my sister wants to watch it, but the truth was I enjoyed the show, and I think most of us did as well. Much like other Disney projects of that era, Hannah Montana came with a musical component that Disney could capitalize on through tours, albums, merch, so much merch, and even more merch. It was therefore no surprise when the announcement came for the release of the Hannah Montana Season 1 soundtrack in October 2006. That's the same month the Black Parade was going to drop. In fact, the albums were due to be released only a week apart.
Hey, what's up? I'm Miley Cyrus from Hannah Montana. And you are watching Disney Channel.
The Black Parade dropped first on October 23rd and debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart. 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge only hit number 28, and I say only like that isn't incredibly impressive for an old album, but it's to show how much more commercially successful the Black Parade was. And then of course the Hannah Montana soundtrack dropped and it debuted at number 1. MTV wrote, "Over the last 7 days, the music industry has been wondering just who would reach Billboard's peak first this week. It was a tight 3-way race between the Hannah Montana soundtrack, which features tracks from the Click 5, Jesse McCartney, and even the Cyruses themselves, My Chemical Romance 3rd studio LP, The Black Parade, and Neo Soul's singer/pianist John Legends once again. It was anyone's guess who would wind up at the top, and for a spell My Chemical Romance seemed to have the advantage. But according to the latest SoundScan totals released on Wednesday morning, a number 1 debut just wasn't in the cards for MCR. Hannah Montana sold more than 281,000 copies its first week in stores, outperforming the Black Parade number 2 with 240,000 by more than 41,000 units, while MCR's conceptual Opus edged out 3rd place Legend by more than 9,000 scans. The Black Parade's impressive first week numbers stomped debut sales of the group's 2004 release 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, which has moved close to 1.5 million copies to date. The record opened at 103 with 12,000 units. That's right, the Hannah Montana soundtrack managed to outperform the Black Parade, at least in its debut week. But how did that happen? The short answer is because of the Disney machine, of course. The show was a massive hit, and its promo efforts included music, commercials, cross-promotions, constant reruns, tour, merch, and more merch, and this kept the show's visibility constant. In fact, the album was the first ever TV soundtrack to debut at number 1. Disney really went all out, and it's also 2006 and children wanna buy CDs, and the young fan base of Hannah Montana translated into album sales. Parents were also more likely to buy the album for their kids, boosting sales numbers significantly. And that's not me being salty about MCR losing to Hannah Montana, by the way. We can all admit that Hannah Montana went hard and Miley was being worked overtime, constantly. It's just more of an explanation, you know? Ultimately, the Black Parade altered the world, and I'm not sure that debuting at number 1 would have changed much. It's still that album, and it's forever gonna be that album, number 1 or not. However, if the Black Parade did debut at number 1, then we wouldn't have gotten these tweets from Frank, so I mean, there is that. Frank, my girls are getting older and have started combing through Disney and Nickelodeon on demand. They recently discovered Hannah Montana and are getting a little obsessed, watching every episode. Today I told them to enjoy it whilst it lasts, because in the last episode, Hannah dies. They're unsure what to believe. I did get specific though. I said she dies on stage when a faulty lighting rig falls on top of her. But in my defense, I've never watched the show, so, you know, that could be how it ends. The fun game now is whenever there's a sequence in the show where she's performing on stage, I yell, "Watch, watch, this is where it happens." Just wait until I tell them I'm pretty sure it wasn't an accident, that Billy Ray Cyrus probably rigged the lights so he didn't have to share the royalties. Someone then asked Frank, is this payback for the first album blocking the Black Parade being #1? To which he replied, I've no idea what you're talking about, angry face. And that's it, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for making it this far, and as always, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss, then please comment them down below. Thank you once again to Vault Comics for sponsoring the video, and don't forget to use code Halloweeny for 10% off your orders. That's without the X's, Halloweeny for 10% off. Thank you, goodbye, and I'll see you next week.